Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our latest roundtable episode of a West Yorkshire football show. Joined by quite a lovely bunch of people here. We've got a few of them away on international duties at the moment, but we've got the dream team in. We've got Stephen Downs talking Huddersfield Town, very good Jason B talking Leeds United, and Gaz talking Bradford City. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Obviously, we've got a jam-packed show full of Leeds United, chat Huddersfield, Bradford City, bit of non-league stuff as well, and the traditional predictions, which we're still going to have to go through, ladies and gents. So it would be good to get your predictions in as well. So, like I say, welcome to our channel. Obviously, we are across different social media channels, so give us a like on our video on YouTube, and obviously a subscription as well. We're just shy of 1.5k, which would be amazing to get that up to the landmark. And also, we're on Facebook, TikTok, X. We're about nearly 10 people off 1,000. So if we can do it tonight while the boys are away, we can rub the faces in it. That'd be great. So like I say, get your comments in as well, and we will obviously promote and give you a shout out as well. And it's just really good to get you guys involved, because without you guys, we don't really have a show. So let's kick off. Go on, Jason. Leeds United. I know obviously you and Brownie were chatting on Thursday. Obviously you've done the stream as well on Saturday. Probably don't really want to talk much about the game, but for those who may have not tuned in on your Thursday night show, do you want to give us a quick overview? I say quick because there's probably not much to talk about, mate.
Well, mate, there were 46 seconds of action in the highlights package. So the teams walking out to halfway and then the teams coming off at full time made up more of the highlights package than the actual gameplay. That's how bad the game was. Obviously, it was picked for Sky. I know pretty much every game at the moment's on Sky that's at half-goal, but it was the highlighted game, which it probably would be worthy of, considering the fact that both teams would be expected to be in the top six. But it was an absolute stinkfest. The best thing about the game was the fact that it finished. It was absolutely tragic, mate. It was turgid. We had one shot on target, which was an Ethan Ampadu looping header that never troubled the keeper whatsoever. And they had one shot on target, which was Jason Malumbi shot that went straight down Mellier's throat. That was literally the game. It was two teams that set up for a point. They set up not to concede, and obviously both teams didn't. So they kind of, they got away with what they aimed for. For Leeds, I think it was a situation, given the fact that we'd conceded 6 goals both at home. The Middlesbrough performance, more than the result, was horrific. Defensively, we were absolutely woeful on the day. I can understand it making sense from Daniel Farke's point of view to build from the back again and not concede, not lose the game, get a point on the board. From Corbyn's point of view and West Brom's point of view, they were going up against a team that would be expected to be competing for top 2. And if they can get points home or away against teams like Leeds, Burnley, Luton, they're going to be happy come the end of the season. So I suppose it makes sense for them as well. But, their whole team put together makes the valuation of around 20 million quid. It's a very aging side. And the Leeds side is the polar opposite of that. We've got Dan James on his own, who was bought for 25 million quid. I don't think it's acceptable personally that we go into these games not looking to win them. I understand the circumstances, I understand the situation around it was a little bit different given the start that we'd had, but it was only one poor performance. And sure, we've only lost from what we were expecting to go into the game. Jorginho, Rutter, the squad is still stacked. The team that started that day, I made the point in the group that you wouldn't have swapped a single West Brom player for a Leeds one, maybe with the exception of Palmer in goal. I'd probably swap him myself for Mellier, but that aside, I wouldn't have swapped a single player. So, I don't think it's right that Daniel Farke was going into that game with the mindset that he did and the tactics that he did. That said, we came out with a point. If we'd have beaten Portsmouth, we'd have been very open-minded to the idea that a point away at the Hawthorns wouldn't have been the end of the world. So I can subscribe to that. We are still unbeaten in the league. We come away with it with something to build on, a clean sheet and a good defensive performance after a terrible one midweek. So I do see some positives in it, even though the performance was turgid.
In terms of the performance itself, and obviously based on the Middlesbrough performance as well, are you, I wouldn't say hitting a panic button, but is there a little bit of concerns at the moment, the way the season started, because it kind of echoes a little bit of how last season started?
Yeah, I'm worried. I am worried. You know, we're now at 2 wins in 13, I think it is, under Farker. Going back into last season, the Norwich game and the 4-3 away at Middlesbrough towards the back end of last season were the only 2 games that we've won in the last 13. That's a concern. You know, if that 13 games was to stretch over this season, you'd be really worried. And you'd probably be fighting relegation rather than fighting for promotion, wouldn't you? If you'd only won 2 13. So it's definitely got to be a concern. And then you throw into the factor that, you know, a lot of people are saying about Daniel Farker that his systems depend on individual talents to work and operate, and we're starting to run out of them very quickly. You know, I think a manager that was able to set his teams up and create passing sequences and tactically outfight and outthink the opponents would still probably finish top 2 with this team. I have no doubt in my mind that Bielsa would win the league with this team. Kieran McKenna, you know, other managers that have come before either of them would be able to get more from this team than Farker is at the moment. And I worry that we are heavy dependent on the likes of Somerville and Jorginho Rutter to make his systems work. I'm not saying that we should be thinking about sacking him today. I'm not, but the warning signs are there. These performances, or some of these more in specific areas of what we're seeing that's bad this season, only in 3 games, granted, but still this season, we've seen over the last 12 months. It's not brand new, you know, so some of his limitations are still surfacing, basically.
What limitations then, mate, would you say they are from a Leeds United fan perspective?
Static, side to side, very boring, very slow, waiting for moments rather than creating opportunities and chances. You know, we go through a game again at the weekend where Yopero, he's had a poor game, but he's limited to 1 shot from outside the box. That's it. Mateo Joseph's not had a chance created for him the whole game. Didn't think he played well. I didn't think him or Pirro played well individually, but the team still didn't create him anything. Vertically, we are constantly moving the ball, but without penetration of going through the lines. During pre-season, I saw that. We saw a change in tempo and a change in the penetration. We went through the lines more. We're not seeing it at all in the last 2 games. I've got to say, and we have to bring this back a little bit. I think against Portsmouth, we did do that. We did create chances. We looked better, but defense, we couldn't get the balance right between defense and attack. It was either one or the other, and we've seen that against West Brom, we can defend better. We can look like we can actually not concede a goal for 90 minutes. But against Portsmouth, it was the complete opposite. When we then do start expressing ourselves, we leave gaping holes at the back. And then we saw it against Middlesbrough. Well, Middlesbrough, we saw the terrible side of both. We created nothing and we're defensively terrible. And I think, you know, most of the worry is actually on the back of the Middlesbrough performance rather than the one at the weekend. Like I say, if West Brom, was isolated and we'd beaten Portsmouth, I don't think he'd have so many tongues wagging. And obviously, a lot of the frustrations is what's going off the pitch. The lack of communication from the 49ers, the lack of communication about transfers or even giving us anything, the lack of movement that, again, we're seeing this week. We don't know what's going on with Jorginho Rutter now. You know, Jorginho Rutter was out of the squad on Saturday. This link went live on Wednesday after we played Middlesbrough, and he's still not gone. Like, what's going on? Yeah. What is happening? It's now kind of making a few Leeds fans think, is he staying? Has something happened? Has something changed? Have they asked him to, ask them to wait on announcing it until we have a player to announce to sign? It's all really messy, mate. And, Leeds fans are very, touchy when it comes to owners. We've had some terrible ownerships over the years, and we don't really have a lot of trust in the 49ers anyway. They haven't been here long enough for them to gain a lot of trust for a lot of fans. So there's just a lot of toxicity, and their performance is not coming through. Just makes it worse. It compounds the issues, So
I was listening. Oh, go on, Steve.
I was just going to say, do you think the Rutter deal is something to do with wanting to sign a player? Because I know clubs do hold that back, don't they, in terms of, you want your guy in before you eventually let Rutter go. I mean, I can't see anything from all the rumours that were out there when the deal supposedly was done before the weekend, that he wanted to move to Brighton, that he was actively looking to, not looking for the move, but when the deal has come up, it's going to be difficult to turn down Brighton, because I would imagine he would go straight into their starting lineup. I think he's good enough to do that. So I would be surprised if he would now say, no, actually I don't want to move to Brighton in the Premier League, and I want to stay at Leeds.
I watched Brighton. They looked good against Everton. I think he starts games there straight away. I do. I think there's a space for him within that team, within that setup. I think he'd be a great addition there. I don't believe for a second that he can turn that move down. The monies that would be involved, Premier League football, again, a proper chance at Premier League football this time as well. Like, he didn't get the opportunity to play really, not in a system and a setup that was right. I mean, he played for 3 managers, for Christ's sake. You know what I mean? Like, it was a mess when he signed for Leeds. Yeah. So
it's a stable football club, that, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Tony Bloom at the top. They've got a great recruitment team. I know half of them's been nicked by Chelsea over the years, but they somehow are continuing to run really well. And I know that they've had a change of manager, but from everything that I've read about Brighton and what their fans are saying, that they're quite excited about this new guy that's coming.
Yeah. Well, they have a great recruitment structure, don't they? That's what it's all been built around, and then selling them players on for a high profit to carry on that kind of recruitment process. So, no, and just coming back to him, I think there's must be a deal that Leeds are waiting to announce to kind of see off a little bit of this negativity. I don't believe it's Brighton that's involved in it. I've seen some fans putting two together and getting 5 about Kozia Dewsbury, who they signed from Arsenal over to Brighton, and Brighton are looking to loan him out to the Championship. I don't believe he'll be coming as part of the deal, because they don't need to make that as part of the deal. No. They've activated a release clause. So, it's just all a little bit funny. And because they're not feeding the local journalists anything, it's leaving us as Leeds fans to kind of fill the void, just fill the silence, if you like. I don't agree that Cree and Gio will be bench players this season. I saw you flash up Gavin's comment there. I think Cree might start on the bench. I think he's going to find game time a bit harder. He's got some real competition for his places. I think Gio's incredible. I think once he gets in, he'll stay in.
Do you think that Brighton actively, because I was surprised, Jay, to be fair, I watched your Thursday and your review show of the West Brom game, and I was surprised that not more clubs didn't realise about this release clause. I mean, I didn't even know about it, to be honest. So the fact that Brighton was the only club that came in and they came in at the very last minute, I just wonder whether Brighton's got the inside track on a lot of these contract things and sort of release clauses, because they seem to be very good at finding them, and putting them in. To be fair, let's not forget that there was the whole thing around McAllister having his release clause. Obviously, I know that was the other way, but they seem to be quite clever at doing it.
I think they were in for Somerville before he went to West Ham, and then it went quiet pretty quickly. He also they also had 2 bids rejected for Rutter before then activating the release clause. 28 million and 35 million are the 2 bids that that's actively been kind of disclosed that they did bid twice and were both rejected. Leeds have then flapped and offered a contract after the £40 million bid has obviously been automatically accepted by the release clause, which has irritated a lot of Leeds fans, because they're like, well, why is this contract not being offered before the release clause has been activated? Which is absolutely the right thing to be asking. Again, it's reactive. I mean, who's to say that there wasn't a contract offered and Rutter's turned it down and said, "Look, why am I gonna remove this release clause? We're in the Championship." So there is 2 sides to this, and I get that. I think ultimately that must have come from the Rutter side. The release clauses, they are kept quiet by the selling team, but an agent knows that. The player knows what the release clause is. So if the deal wants to get moving, it'll happen. It's very rare that once it gets to the point where the player is going for a medical, they then turn the deal down and change their mind. I know it happened the other week at Liverpool with Zubomendi. I think they're a real one-offs because of the Sociedad Basque Country kind of scenario anyway. Not to get
there's a lot more going on there, isn't there?
It doesn't happen very often. Right now, we're in a situation where this window has been an absolutely disaster for Leeds United. And not only has it been a disaster, it's been a PR disaster as well, because the 49ers have not checked the temperature correctly. They've said the wrong things at the wrong times. They've tried to make it okay that they've got into bed with Red Bull, which I ain't got a problem with, by the way. But then don't justify it by saying that this deal will make the difference between keeping a player and selling a player when you then go on to sell all of your valuable assets. Because the players that they were insinuating would stay are Jorginho Rutter, Chris Somerville, and Archie Gray. And all three of them are now gone. They're not talking about Sam Byram or Patrick Bamford, are they? You know what I mean? Like, it makes no sense. So, and it's not just, they've come out and actively said, the money that we get for these players that we do have to sell will be reinvested in the playing squad. Well, where is it? Because Joe Rodon has come in for 10 million quid, but that was part of the Archie Gray deal. Yeah, and the only other signing that we've made for value of any value is Jayden Bogle for 5 million. When we've brought in the most value in Europe at 150 million, it's not acceptable. If I'm honest, it's not.
What does good look like then, Jay, over the next couple of weeks, probably before the end of the transfer window? Obviously, wins help. Football fans, as we all know, we're all them at the same time, can be quite fickle. Wins probably mask over some of the issues which you've talked about, but I'm guessing you want to see quite a few bodies coming in through the corridor now at Ellen Road.
We need 4, mate, as a minimum. Some Leeds fans will tell you we need 5 or 6. The squad looks very thin. At the weekend, we had Charlie Crew on the bench, who's 17. We had James DeBayo, who's never made a first-team appearance. We had, Carl Darlow. We had another player that would hardly play. I can't think of the better. But we had Bamford. We didn't have much to change the game. And looking at the 2 benches, and I've seen other content creators say this, West Brom actually had a bench that could affect a game more than we did, and that's not okay. Grady Dean Garner, Jed Wallace came off the bench. They had some proper game changes. We didn't have any of that. We had Patrick Bamford. So it's a problem. It's a real problem. I think we need to see 4. It's been reported by Graham Bailey tonight that Jack Clarke is open to a Leeds return. When it starts getting reported by decent media outlet, you can half believe that it's coming from some source, either the player or the agent has spoken to somebody and they wanted that information to be released out there. I can see it happening if a Premier League team doesn't come in for him. If a Premier League team comes knocking, it's probably going to go there. The monies that are around are ridiculous. I've just seen Leicester have paid 25 million quid for Ollie Skip. Like, you can't compete with that. If they're prepared to pay £25 million for a pretty average, basic midfielder in an Ollie Skip, they're going to be prepared to pay 25 million for Jack Clarke. Same goes for Ipswich. Same goes for Southampton. So it's a difficult market that we're fishing in, but there needs to be a marquee signing, mate, that goes alongside, if he stays, willing on to give us that creative edge. That's what Daniel Farke needs in this system. And out of all the positions, we need a 10. We really need a 10, but we're desperate for an 8. We are absolutely desperate for a box-to-box midfielder that can drive through the lines, score from range, play them defence-splitting passes, have the stamina to get up and down. Defensively, I think we're probably set. I think that is the one area of the pitch. But then again, we're only one injury to Junior Firpo away from not having a left-back. And we're back to playing right-footed Sam Byram, who's also injured a lot of the time at left-back. So, yeah, mate, a lot to do. A win on Friday would be massive. I think Sheffield Wednesday, coming off the back of a 4-0 thumping, leaves them in a bit of a tricky position. They're probably a little bit hit for confidence as well after what happened at the weekend. So it's a good opportunity for us to go out there. But I have a feeling that he'll probably go into it very pragmatic again. The likelihood is that we won't have any signings through the door before Friday, which is a real worry. We're already on Monday of this week now. Going into Tuesday, we've heard nothing. The game's only 3 days away. So, yeah, it's a worrying one, mate. It's a real worry. We should still be, even if the window shut tomorrow and this squad is really short, we should still have enough in this team to finish top 6. We should, without Rutter, without Somerville. We should.
I don't think he'll keep Nonto. I think he'll go. I will be. I don't know how worried you are about losing Nonto, but I genuinely think he will leave. And I agree with you that the more later you leave it in the window, the more competition that there'll be for these sorts of signings, like your Jack Clarks and people like that. You know, we've just seen it with Smodrich going to Ipswich. They've nicked him under your noses. They've been quite quick on that deal. So I can totally understand why you are worried at the moment. I get it.
The
The only
funny
thing is,
with...
you are coming up against a Wednesday. Go on,
Sorry, go on. Sorry, I thought you'd finished.
I was just going to end with. I was just going to end by saying that I think when Friday is a very good opportunity to get your first win on the board, because Wednesday looks absolutely horrendous up at Sunderland. Terrible.
They're going to be better, though. They're going to be better. They're going to be a side that are in and around top 10, I would have thought. I had them down as finishing top 6, so I think they'll improve on what they did the other day. But, yeah, I think out of all of them, Nonto is the one that I would have cared least about keeping. He would have been the one that I would have wanted to see him move on the most. Now we're in this situation that we're in, it almost feels like we have to keep him. We have to keep him. He's the one that's got no release clause. He's also the one that has got the highest sell-on fee to previous club, 30%, I believe it is. So the PSR reckoning of selling him doesn't really make a lot of sense unless the money is astronomical, which I don't think anybody's going to pay. He's not worth 30 million. He's not. He's not. I don't think he's. I don't think he's that good. I think his value, my personal value, I think 15 million would probably make sense, and we'd be then looking at taking 9 million of that. It's just not worth it for us. So yeah, I think there's a couple of really, really good comments. I've seen people flying around with comments. A lot to be said on Daniel Farke. I do think there's a part of the situation where he's getting the rug pulled out from under him. That at the end of the day, he isn't in charge of making these signings happen, and he's also not responsible for the players leaving. He would have wanted to keep them all, of course he would. There's a team without Somerville and Rutter in it now is weaker than it was. So of course you'd want to keep them. But he is responsible for getting the best out of Yo Peru. He is responsible for getting the right play within this team. He's responsible for getting the best out of Jaden Bogle, who should have really offered more over these few games. He is responsible for the way that we set up at the weekend. I'm not having this Peru's crap stuff. I'm not. This is a player that scored over 20 goals in a mid-table team for 2 years in a row in the Championship. He comes to Leeds, and at times he looks like he can't play football, but he's a system player. He doesn't fit the system.
I'm going to ask this, Jay, because I was listening on the way to a game on Saturday from our friends at Radio Leeds, both Popey and Catherine Anna were asking the same question. And I thought it was a really valid one. And they weren't being derogatory at all. They were just asking a genuine question is, how do you get the best out of Perrault? Because at the moment, he is that number 10. So what do you do to get the most out of that player that's been signed? And like I say, arguably now he's going to be that starting 11 for at least 2 or 3 games.
Yeah, I mean... That's the job that Daniel Farke's paid to do, isn't it? And that's why managers are managers, and we're armchair fans and talk about it here. But for me, everything that I've seen of Perrault is that you play him alongside another striker and you play him as a front two. In every system he's ever been successful in, he's played alongside usually a pacey striker. And when it worked at the beginning of the last season, he was playing much closer to Jorginho Rutter in a front two, even though Rutter started as the 9 for most of the early part of the season, and Perrault was the 10. That's how it worked, and it worked when all the players around him, Sinistera, Somerville, James, Nonto, and Rutter did all the running for him because he's not quick. He's a marksman finisher. You put the ball on his foot in the box, and he'll probably finish. He'll probably score. Yeah. So when he played for Swansea, when he had success, he was in and around Obafemi, who's quick. So in the Leeds system, he's asked to do things that he can't do. He's asked to press effectively, he can't do it. He's asked to run channels, he can't do it. He's asked to hold the ball up, he can't do it. That's not the player that he is. In my opinion, even though last season he scored 13, 14 goals for Leeds, it's just a bad signing. It's a bad recruitment error for the system. He will likely go to another Championship or even lower Premier League team and smash goals in for fun, but the system will get him into the positions where he gets the ball and he'll score goals. Yeah, at the weekend he had one chance after 3 or 4 minutes that he hacked wide, probably because he knew we weren't going to get another shot, and that was it. That was his chance for the game. So, yeah, that's what I think, mate. That's what I think.
So, to wrap up, obviously, on the Leeds United chat, we'll go through the annual predictions. Fair to say that no one got the Borough result correct in midweek. I don't think anybody probably would have expected that 3-0. And there were a couple of draws in, but no 0-0s from a solo. Obviously, you touched on Wednesday away, Jason, on Friday night. Obviously, if you want to give a quick, thought process over that one and then your prediction, mate.
I find it a really hard one to kind of overview, if I'm honest, because I think Sheffield Wednesday are going to be so much better. It's a massive game for them. It's a big derby game for them. They hate Leeds, and they're going to have a lot to prove. But Leeds are under the caution. They need a result. 1-0 Leeds. 1-0 Leeds.
He's sticking with his heart.
Yeah, I got to go with my team, Anna. I got to go with the team.
Go on, Downsy. What do you think, mate?
I just think there's not a lot of positivity. Sorry, Jay, this isn't me bantering you either. I genuinely think there's not a lot of positivity going into a Yorkshire derby. And I know we talked about Wednesday just losing 4-0, but I think that's easier to bounce back from because there's still a lot of positivity around Danny Rowe, the manager, and stuff like that, where you guys, there's just a lot of apathy at the moment. And so I'm going to go 2-1 Wednesday. I am, and that's not to banter Leeds fans.
Hey, mate.
Is it at Hillsborough? It could be.
Yeah. It's at Hillsborough, yeah. It absolutely, listen, it absolutely could be, but there will be an absolute thunderstorm if there is. We're on the edge right now as it is. I know. So, but you could be right. You could absolutely be right.
Yeah, 2-1, Lou.
2-1. No worries, Gaz. What do you think, mate? Keeping quiet in the corner there, obviously, and just pondering the noise across the hill there at Leeds. What your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm on my phone, as you know, lads, so I can't jump in the chat and say when I want to make a point. But I just on Nonto, I think it's a snowballing thing, isn't it? If he looks at Somerville's gone and Rutter's gone, then maybe he's more likely to go than he would have been previously. I think that happens around football clubs. They look at the direction the club's heading in, the signings that are being made, and like you say, you're worried there's no signings coming in, there's players going out. I just wanted to make that point, and then the other thing.
You know what on that, guys? Just hold your second point just for a minute, because I think you're absolutely spot on, and I think there's been Joe Rodon in his interview when he signed said that he signed because of the project that's ongoing. Well, where is this project? The players, it's a short career for them, and they have limited opportunities sometimes to make these big moves. So I think you're absolutely spot on when especially for Nonto. Nonto's best mate, he apparently lives with Chris Somerville, or he did before Somerville's move. They're extremely close. They'll be talking, and these things, that is how football works. And even if he doesn't get the move that he wants, his head's then not in it.
That's what I said in the WhatsApp group, Jay. That's what I said in the WhatsApp group.
You could be spot on. You could be spot on, mate. Sorry, make your second point. I didn't mean to.
No, it's all right. The other point is just on Wednesday. I was shocked at that result at the weekend. I'm similar to you. I thought they'd have a decent season this season. I had them finishing higher mid-table, really. I think based on what they did last year after Rowe came in. But they can be very Jekyll and Hyde. Even looking at the results last year, they'd win a couple and they'd lose a couple, win a couple. And they could put in some really good performances, but then some bad ones as well. It's a tough one because, like you say, if you're going to go pragmatic, then it's hard to predict a win, isn't it? But you need a win. So I agree with what you said. I think if you had beat Portsmouth on the opening day, which you arguably deserve to do, then things would look a lot different because people would look and say, well, a draw at West Brom's not a bad result. And you'd just be looking at the Borough game and saying, well, I hope that's an anomaly. It was a cut. We made loads of changes, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to go 2-1 Leeds at Wednesday.
Got to get that first win somewhere, aren't we? So
well, thinking it's going to come at some point. And I wanted to just say about Pirot as well. I think it's fun. We've talked about it a lot, haven't we? It just feels like a bad signing. And like you say, he scored goals at other teams, but he's not played as a 10 at other teams, and he's gone to Leeds and he's played as a 10. It's like a round peg for a square hole.
The problem is we've been spoilt with quite energetic, little, diminutive 10s over the years at Leeds. Samu Saez, Pablo Hernandez. And that's what the fan base thinks as a 10. And that most of the time that is what a 10 looks like. But Perrault, he probably is a 9.5. He plays off the striker, so you can kind of fit into that 10 role. But he's got none of the qualities that them players that I've just mentioned have got. He's not nimble on the ball. He's just not that kind of player. So we're asking him to do things that he just can't do, which is then actually unfair to him. It makes him look like a bad player. He's not a bad player. He's just wrong in this system.
And we've seen this with other signings at clubs, and it just goes back to like it's just a bad signing.
Yeah. Sam, I just seen Arthur's comment about Sam Allardyce. I mean, that's just a wild one, that Arthur. I can't even comment on that. This one here, like, no, stop it now, stop it.
We've played 4-4-2 and he'd get someone up there with it up.
I know, yeah, true.
You never know. Yeah.
He's on the tightrope, Parker. He's on the tightrope. And I'm sorry, I know that we need to move on from Leeds. There is still such a hangover, and I've said this before, from Bielsa and the football, and I miss him, and I miss the football, but it's gone. And not many other managers have got the capabilities to be able to deliver that kind of look and watch of football. We're not going to have that again. You know, most of the football that we're now going to see at this level is going to look like Daniel Farke's or a version of it. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is, if we get rid of Farke, you're not going to get much better, I don't think. Yeah, you're going to be lucky to come across someone else that's been as successful. Bear in mind, every full season that he's had at championship level, he's achieved over 90 points, and 2 of the times he's won the league. So I think we just need to be careful what we wish for. I'm not saying that I understand the reservations, I understand the worries, and I think there is concerns, and I don't know whether he's the man or not. But I think there'd be a lot worse that we could end up with, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I see you. Yeah, you totally. Yeah.
I agree, and I think there's also an element of, listen, it's not going to go well, is it? The noise is definitely going to still remain while this form and kind of cloud hanging over just seems to be there. It's going to be discussed, and it's not going to be just ending tonight or tomorrow. It's going to carry on even after the transfer window. For my thoughts, to give predictions, I think last week is tough, and I 100% hear you, Jason. I know we spoke about it personally, haven't we? And you know, to win the league, if that's the ambition, which is what it is, you know, you've got to sometimes turn up and do the gritty stuff and really grind out a win when you might not expect to do it. I think that week is really, it's quite hurtful in terms of losing Rutter and everything that goes around it. I think it's not helped by, you know, not bringing a player in to maybe counteract that, even though he's not officially gone. But, you know, obviously we hear that's going to happen. I think from Leeds' perspective, the best thing you can do now is to get last week out of the way. I think, in fairness, a 0-0 at West Brom, outside looking in, isn't too bad, even though it's probably not what you really wanted. For me, I actually agree with guys. I've gone 2-1, just simply for the fact that I think Wednesday will be probably looking at themselves, will be hurting, but I think that'll come as a real culture shock, that 4-0 loss. Yeah. And I think the foundations for Leeds were there against West Brom, having seen some of the game, and I think it just needs a little bit to click up front. I don't know where it's going to come from, I'm not going to lie, but you create a chance against Portsmouth, so you can do it. So I'm going 2-1.
Brendan Aronson is where I think it had come from. He'd make the difference. He's directness, he's speed of thought, and the way that he runs at players. I don't think championship defences on the whole would be able to deal with him. I really, really think he could be, maybe, I don't think long-term in the 10, but he'd offer a better solution to what we've got right now. And we also need to bear in mind as well that the division is sorting itself out at the moment in terms of players. So Odebear went from Burnley last week to Spurs pretty much the same day that Rutter got announced to Brighton. They've now, I've just seen 30 minutes ago, Fabrizio Romano's announced that Fulham have agreed a deal for Sander Berg to go there. So Burnley have lost another one, 20 million. Now, this makes a massive difference in where we stand in our pecking order, because it's as important to us as losing a player of Rutter's, you know, capabilities, that they're losing their players as well. So I would guess that that'll be their replacement for Paulinho, right? So you know, it's an it's a big thing, and we need to remember that. Like this league hasn't sorted itself out yet, so
no need to panic. But let's move on to a team who, out of 5 teams in the EFL, along with Burnley, Watford, Walsall and Crawley, of all teams, have a 100% record so far this season of win after win after win. Downsy, you must be a pig in metaphorical something.
Yeah, pig and poo. It's wonderful at the moment. Do you know what? If I'd have sat here a year ago and said that we'd have won our first 3 games, albeit in a league below, I wouldn't have believed you. I'd have said, "Nah, go on. That's not possible. Town don't win 3 games in a row," but we somehow have. It's brilliant. I mean, obviously we beat Morecambe quite comfortably in the cup. And then at the weekend, Stevenage came up and, first half, again, we dominated play. We scored a great goal with Karoma. I mean, Sorensen whipped a crossing and it was just brilliant. I mean, the lad is championship quality already. And I didn't realise how good he was. I mean, Chris, we've had Chris on, obviously, and him being a Lincoln fan, waxing lyrical about him when we have chatted with him. And I just feel like everything that Chris said about him was right, really. And second half was, not as good. Duff said that himself after the game. Very disappointed with the subs impact. Stevenage got a penalty that I'm still not really sure why it was given. Apparently there was a pullback or something and it wasn't even given. Everybody thought it was for the fact that Nichols came out of his goal and went to punch the ball and made connection with the Stevenage lad. But apparently that wasn't the reason why it was given. So I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. But yeah, first half, once again, like in over games, controlled it, came out, did brilliant. And then second half, there's been a bit of a drop off, but because of what our work in the first half, we've managed to kill games off. So, listen, he's the first new Town manager to win his first 3 games in charge since Tom Johnson in 1976. I've no idea what the statistic is to win his 4 games in charge, but I imagine we're going back maybe near the war, Second World War, or even before that. So, no, it's just a great start, and I just love everything that Duff's trying to do. I love the system. I wasn't at the game because I was in Leeds celebrating a mate's birthday. Happy 29th, Jack. But yeah, it was good, and I am that pig in poo, Lou. That rhymed. That
pretty good, mate. In terms of the players, obviously he's brought in. He's keeping quite a consistent lineup at the moment. Obviously, Miller's coming in, Sorensen's come in, Evans has come in. But obviously around that is kind of players who were with the squad last year as well. Do you feel like he's getting the best out of some of them players that probably struggled last season, to be fair?
Yeah, I think, listen, the massive surprise this season is been Ben Wiles. Scored another goal on Saturday. He's got now 2 for the season. Looked excellent in pre-season as well. Looks absolutely a different player, like just a new signing overall. I mean, he could hardly run for 60 minutes last season, and I think he had a lot of, problems with injuries and not being fit, and then the pressure of being in the Championship, playing in a poor side that was not very confident, and there was a lot of fractious relationships around. And so this season, it's like a new life for him, new lease of life really on a football pitch, and he's just been excellent. So he's getting the best out of Ben Wiles for sure. I think the defence, they're old heads, so they're just going to do what they're normally going to do. Nichols as well in goal. I think you can improve players, obviously. You can improve players all the time, but they kind of know what they're doing. Spencer, he's made as a centre-back, so he's learning a new position, and I think Duff, being a centre-back, will really help him do that. So that's interesting. And obviously with the club's taking a 1-year option on his contract, I think that's more to protect the club than anything else. And then, other players, Karoma, he's sort of, we've seen him before in a top 2. Very rarely though under other managers, and I feel like that's going to be a staple now for Duff, in case we don't get a new striker. So, Karoma scored his first ever header for Town in 5 years on Saturday. So if he keeps doing that'd be great. But I think the new lads have really added something. Like I say, Sorensen, Mikael Miller, Herbie Kane in midfield, and Anthony Evans. I just think they're really good. And Marshall came on, and again, apparently, young lad, and did really well. He was the only sub that that Duff praised at the weekend. So I think he has improved players. G. Medley's another one, but I think the new lads have also made a real difference and added new optimism into the squad for sure.
You've seen one leave through the door, Steve, Josh Osterfield, who was back in that crew team last year. Obviously, left to go to Salford. And I'm guessing that, the upturn in form, the strength in depth you've got that Duff has built has just meant, unfortunately, somebody's just got to make way, haven't they?
Yeah. I think there's a few lads that have had to realise that they're not really going to make it. Obviously, Duff's wanting to bring his own people in, but also, there is an example. Tommy Ipienda, he's made the step up in pre-season and really shown his class. So it's not the fact that Duff isn't looking at the younger lads, but I think for some players, they have been here a few years now. They've kind of made it. They've been on the bench. They've made a few appearances here and there, but they need moves. End of the day, whether it's loans or whether it's permanence. Look at Ben Jackson for Barrow. He played a lot of times, made 50 appearances for Town, when really he probably wouldn't have got in any other Championship team, maybe bar Rotherham. So these sorts of lads, they need to go out and play football, and they've done the right thing and got the moves away. And people like Josh Osterfield. And that, they're not bad talents at all. They'll do very well down at sort of League Two level, and they'll be good. They'll be good squad players. Town have done that religiously ever since I started supporting them. That if people haven't made it at Town, then they will go down to the lower levels and have good careers. Critchlow, going back to Chris Atkinson, obviously quite a long football league career in League Two and League One. Particularly at Crewe, I think he made a good few years. So, yeah, it's unfortunate. But listen, if these lads go out and get football and Town have to do the deal, we have got a sort of a bloated squad because of they've sort of rigged in the B team, what was the B team, and gone back to an academy sort of style. So there are a lot of extra players that are just not going to get into the team.
So obviously, just before we get on to the predictions and a look ahead, do you see any movement coming in or out of the Town at the moment? Is there any rumblings that of, Downsy, that can maybe just even pick up the mood even more so?
Yeah, it's so quiet, Lou. I've never known there being less rumours around the club. And I just think that's because they're being so tight-lipped on everything. And I'm sure there are moves trying to happen. Obviously, we're still waiting on whether Joe Taylor's going to move from Luton. He did play at the weekend against Portsmouth. He came off the bench, and that makes me a little bit worried that if Luton are actively... I know they're probably trying to find a striker, but if they're not really going for it, they're just going to keep Taylor, and that means that we'll lose out on another target that we've had this summer. So that will be a big disappointment if we didn't get him. But I'm hoping that Luton get the guy that they want, and then we can get Taylor. But yeah, apart from that, Lou, there's really nothing else happening, and I feel like what we're just waiting for is another striker to come in, and possibly a pacey centre back to cover Bolker. But I don't whether that happens or not. I don't know. Town never do out on transfer deadline day anyway, so I'll be sat here with you all for 4 hours, 5 hours, or whatever. Leeds will be bringing about 15 players in. City will probably sell 3, and Gaz will be, absolutely raging. Dave Foy will just be on Halifax's website refreshing it every 10 seconds, and I'll kind of be sat here going, well, it's been the same for the last 8 years at Town. The lights were on, everybody went to work for a day, and then the lights were switched off.
So moving on to Saturday. Now, ironically, you play Shrewsbury, who, yes, are bottom of the league, but have actually played the two opponents you've already played, Peterborough and Stevenage, and lost both. So as football fans would speculate, you're going to win about 8-0 because obviously you've beat them two teams as well. They've lost against them both. Comfortable win, mate?
I would like to hope so. Apparently, they were really poor against Peterborough. Peterborough beat them 4-1. It came to like the last couple of goals for Peterborough, and they just sort of stopped. Well, I didn't stop trying, but it was definitely not great. It was a bit worrying. I would be worried if I were a Shrewsbury fan. Town are very good at the moment of getting the game done at by half time, so we'll see. I would like to hope that we could win big. Be nice to rack up some goals against a club that obviously is low in confidence and hasn't started the season particularly well. That would be nice. So yeah, I'm hoping for a big win, Lou. Yeah, for sure.
Go on, and what's your score, mate, for all those chaps as well? Because ironically, Danzy, you actually predicted your own team to get the right result actually at the weekend. So fair play on that one, sir. You predicted. Let me just double check now. I think you got Stevenage right, and Gaz got Morecambe right. So there's only me and Jay that are going to pick up the scraps here. So go on then. You've got obviously Shrewsbury home on Saturday, Walsall away in the cup on Tuesday night. Let's go for both then, guys. Starting with you, Steve.
Yeah, I think 4-1 against Shrewsbury. I just think we'll definitely be, looking for goals, particularly being at home. And I think Duff has sent a message to the players after the Stevenage game. He gave them a right rollicking apparently in the changing room afterwards, and we've won a game, which I absolutely love, by the way. That was just fantastic that he even said that after the game. But yeah, 4-1. And then for Walsall in the cup, that's a tricky fixture, I know lots of Town fans are saying, well, it's League Two, we've just played Morecambe, but Walsall a lot better than Morecambe. And we've got to go there on a Tuesday night. But do you know what? Confidence, I'll say 2-1, but it will be a closer game.
2-1. Magic, mate. Go on then. Mr. Gaz, the glue of the show, what are your thoughts, mate? Shrewsbury at home, away to Walsall in the cup. You know about Walsall from League Two.
Good friend of mine, Shrewsbury fan. Him and his family, season ticket holders, weren't happy when Steve Cottrell left the club and Matty Taylor came in. Obviously, they were proved right. That didn't really work out. I think Paul Hurst's in there now, trying to recreate what he did there 5 or 6, 7 years ago, however long it was. And they narrowly missed out on promotion under him, having been top of the league for quite a while. But his career has stalled a bit since then. Looks a little bit like a busted flush, and they are tipped to struggle this year. I can't see anything but a Town win. 3-1 to Town against Shrewsbury.
Magic, mate, and Walsall away in the cup.
Now, Walsall are a bit of a surprise package last season. Can see them doing well again this season. They will, as Downsy says, be a lot better than Morecambe, who are tipped to struggle. Is that at Walsall or is it at Town?
Yeah, it's at Walsall.
All right, I'm going to throw... It's going to go to pens. 2-2 draw and it goes to pens.
Is that the JPT?
No, it's a League Cup.
It's the Carabao.
Why is that a week behind? How's that work?
Mate, to be fair, you went out, so you're not going to be bothered about it anymore. But yeah, it's...
But why is it a week behind?
No, it's not. It's the next round, isn't it?
It's the next round, Jay. It's the second round.
The next round's come that quick? Yeah, because
they're doing that. Did you not remember from last season? They've made the first 3 rounds really quick now.
We might have got knocked out last year. I can't remember, mate, if I'm honest.
No, I forgot the cups for the last 5 years, mate. Never do it.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Cool. Who's going to win on pens then, Gaz?
Town.
Town pens. Mr. Booker, your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, I mean, the Shrewsbury game is a good League Two team versus a bottom end Championship team, really, isn't it? There's a big gap between the two sides. I did see during pre-season that they'd signed John Marquez and Jordan Rossiter, and they were their kind of 2 signings, and I was like, jeez, like John Rossiter is a decent technical midfielder, but he wouldn't have looked out of place with his injury record signing for a Conference National side. That's what I thought. I thought, Marquez is kind of coming to the back end of his career, didn't particularly have a great season at, I think it was Bristol Rovers last season.
Yeah.
So it kind of shows where they're at. So I'd expect them to be towards the bottom. I think at Town that there should be an easy, comfortable win, 3-0. I'm going to say, and then Walsall in the Cup's a tough one. Very similar to what the boys have said. I think there'll be a tough nut to crack at the best got. Been there a couple of times. I'm gonna say 2-1 Walsall. I think Huddersfield will probably play a weakened side given the build-up of games early. Yeah, so I'm gonna say 2-1 Walsall.
Magic. We've got a couple of predictions there from Digler as well. He thinks Huddersfield are going to win 1-0. 3-0 Walsall. Interesting. And our very own Chris as well, tuning in from afar. He thinks Huddersfield are going to beat Shrewsbury 2-1 away from home, but that's interesting because I don't think
that's a prediction for later on in the season.
Is it? Chris is looking months ahead.
They don't play either, Chris. They play at New Meadow now.
Right, I'm not going to lie, Chris. I'm not going to keep a tally of that one for the next month ahead. So obviously, I'm going to go. I agree with everything you guys have said. I think Huddersfield. I think it could be quite a comfortable 2-0 victory. One of my best mates is a Walsall fan. Lives up here and travels down and up and down the country, home and away to Walsall. And he was quietly optimistic about Walsall's chances this year. He felt that they could quite easily go under the radar. The club's ownership has been very steady with the Travilla group who were there, having a bit of insight from him, and they're very complimentary of how they're running the club, the way that the club is operated now, both on and off the pitch. I would suspect Walsall will be knocking on the door for promotion in the next couple of years, where they're going. In terms of a cup, I'll be honest, I think Walsall, as crazy as it sounds, will probably fancy it a little bit more than Huddersfield just because of where the league positions are, and probably Huddersfield's primary focus is on the league. But I'm going to go for a 1-0 Walsall, just simply based on the fact where I think Duff will probably just switch things around and keep it really fresh. That's my own opinion. But I think if Huddersfield play probably half or three quarters of the first team, they should beat Walsall. But that's the only way I see it.
They've got Albert Adoma down there now, haven't they?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, the Morecambe game was over in 20 minutes. It was a bit embarrassing, really. That I couldn't believe how poor Morecambe were, and I don't watch a lot of League Two football, but yeah, I'm expecting a lot better from Walsall, and the fact it's away from home, so I wouldn't be surprised. But Duff will change it. It's just whether the lads that he changes it for are up for it, and you've got to be up for it, haven't you? So
yeah, and it might be because they saw us going to an Avenue game and we bumped into the Morecambe first team, so they might have seen an Avenue bus and gone, actually,
don't fancy these Yorkshire lot.
I fancy going back to Avenue.
Yeah, it's completely put them right off when I saw our minibus. Yeah. So obviously that's predictions for Huddersfield. So again, thanks everyone for your comments, subscriptions. Don't forget to do all that usual stuff in all the usual places: YouTube, X, Facebook, TikTok. Let's keep the comments coming in. Really good for everyone to get involved. Thanks, James, for your prediction as well. Moving on to Bradford City, Gaz. So obviously there's the undercurrent that always sits around with City, but a defeat in penalties against Grimsby and then a 0-0 drawn against Salford. But first of all, we can't start at all with anything else but that ghost goal, mate, at Valley Parade. You've commented, you were there, you've seen it. Let's cut to the chase. It was a goal. It should have been given, and it wasn't.
Yeah, it's just really, really bad. And one of the fellas in front of me turned around and says, "Why hasn't the referee's watch gone off?" And I says, "Well, they don't have it in League Two, mate." But we could see clearly from where we were. We sit top tier behind the goal, and there was clear daylight. You could see daylight. You could see grass between the ball and the line. It wasn't even close. It was a long way over the line. So much so that when the defender slid in to clear it, I expected his clearance to go into the inside side netting, if you are, as he tries to clear it. I thought it was that far back. So he did well to wrap his foot around it, really. I listened to his interview afterwards. Salford interviewed that player afterwards, and he said, "I can guarantee you that it wasn't over the line." And I thought, "You lying bastard." Put it mile over the line. And anyone behind the goal could see it. How the linesman's not seen it, it's just really, really poor. To be fair, people are going about the referee. The referee was a standard League Two referee. it's not his job really to see that ball's over the line. It's the linesman's or the assistant referee's job to see that it's over the line. He's got to be up with play. He's got to see it. I thought that lino in particular was poor all afternoon. I mentioned to you guys before we went live that a corner came in about 10, 15 minutes later and Cookie headed it back from the back post and the lino ruled that it had gone out of play at the back post and he turned and applauded the lino, sort of saying you saw that but you didn't see the one that matters, and obviously got booked for it for back chat to the lino. But it's just a really, really poor decision. That there were people saying that were sat, I sit behind the goal, but people that was in the main stand in the Midland Road, that some of the offside decisions that Lino was giving were a bit dodgy as well. So yeah, it's just really, really poor and really disappointing. You come away feeling that you've been cheated, really. And City fans obviously love a meltdown at the best of times and are whinging, and it's really annoyed me because we're 3 games into the season and the City fans whinging about this, that, and the other already. And yeah, it's disappointing not to win your home game, and yeah, it's a repeat of what we've seen at home games in the last few years, that we're struggling to break teams down, particularly in the second half. And it's sort of a recurring theme. But we deserve to win that game in the second half. And if the linesman does his job properly, you win the game and you joint top of the league with 2 wins from 2. And that's the end. That's the end of it, really. I'm just a bit sick, like I said, a bit sick of fans on social media since the game on Saturday. It's just ridiculously early to be hurling abuse and insults and complaining.
What's been said then, Gaz, because that just seems crazy, doesn't it? After 2-3 games, and you won. What did you win? Obviously, the first game, and then Salford. It seems bizarre why this seems to happen, doesn't it? Quite regularly.
Yeah. People saying that the style of play is crap. Alexander needs to go. Which is a bad signing. He looks past it. Blah 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 blah. Just anything and anything. People. I just think sometimes when City don't win, people look for something to whinge and complain about, and it's just so ingrained in us. Because we have suffered a lot. Let's not get this wrong. City fans have suffered a lot over the last 10 years. Since Parky left. But, sometimes you've just got to look at the bigger picture and say it's 3 games into the season. Arguably the only game that we've not dominated was the MK Dons game that we won. We were the better side against Grimsby, and we were probably the better side against Salford, definitely in the second half. I thought in the first half, Salford cut us open a few times. People obviously had the stall set before the season started that they weren't happy with the left wing backs. Tyreek Wright isn't a left wing back, blah blah blah. But I thought he did all right on Saturday, to be honest. I thought people are just looking for complaints, things to whinge about. Let's read what Ian's put here.
Oh, Johnny.
Yeah, now I can agree with him on Gilead. People are saying that doesn't add up. Gilead's apparently been told he can go. This comes after Alexander praising him last season and saying what a brilliant player he is to have, and how he loves him as a footballer and needs him in the squad, and now he's been told he can go. The only thing I can say about that is that I would imagine that's come from us not being able to move other players on, and that we struggled to get rid of Oliver and Wilson and McDonald, and therefore he's looking at other players that do have interest. But I would be keeping Gilead. I think he's a better option to have in the squad than a Clark-Adore, for example. But Alexander does seem to like Clark-Adore. So it's just a bit annoying, really, that people just are ready and they've got the stall set and they're ready to win. No matter how early it is when you don't win a game.
I find it incredible that 3 games in and people are already whinging about, right. So there's a difference, I think, between what's happening at Leeds and what's happening at City. And I think the thing is, right, you've gone from, how many people hated Mark Hughes and the football that was being played? You've now got what is a successful League 2 manager, and also, he has managed at a higher level in League 1 as well. Just back the guy, for God's sake. I don't understand this inability for City fans to just go, right, well, we didn't like last season and the football that was played last season, and we don't like what's happening already this season, so we need to change. Genuinely, guys, if they got somebody like, I'm not saying like Mark Hughes in, but somebody who wanted to play the football on the deck and it wasn't going quite right, they wanted him out in 3 games again.
We said
same every single year. And I like a whinge as much as the rest of them. I really do. You'll see me on social media having rants on Twitter and complaining about this, that, and the other. But we are 3 games into the season.
Guys, we said it in the preview show before pre-season. We said just how important the Bradford fans would be. I remember having a specific conversation with you about it and how vital it was that they turned Valley Parade into a bit of a fortress and they got behind the boys because it makes that much of a difference. You know, you had 16,000 at Valley Parade for a League Two game at weekend. Like, it is absolutely vital that they are right behind the team. It makes no sense.
Now, a couple of points, like there's obviously the rumblings that City fans are never happy, and there's all this with the background of the ownership and this, that, and the other. There's what I talked about with Gilead. A couple of points that have been raised are the first one that they're not happy. I think I mentioned it on previous pods about the number 8s that are playing, and people are saying that Sarcevic and Patterson shouldn't be playing, and Walker and probably Poynton should have kept the places from the end of last season. I can totally get on board with that. That is totally and utterly understandable. It's something that I've raised before. And to be fair, they were a big part of our run at the end of last season. And I think that they deserve to keep the places, and I'd have made Sarcevic and Patterson wait for the places. But Graham Alexander's gone down that route. I can understand that criticism. I can understand the Gilead criticism. There's also another soundbite that's come out in the press. I don't know if you lads have seen it. Graham Alexander did an interview last week in the build-up to the game. I think it was his pre-match press conference, where he said that City fans need to put down their bag of bitterness, that he's basically referring to our disgruntlement with what's happened over the last few years and saying that we need to see it as a fresh start and get behind the team. And people are going to quip that like they've clipped Sparks' quotes before about mediocrity, etc., and they're going to use that. Yes, it could have been worded better. It could have just said, let's have a clean start, let's stay behind the lads, blah, 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 blah. That bag of bitterness has not gone down well, and I kind of understand it. So I can understand that. I can understand the Gilead thing. I can understand the number 10 thing. But it's 3 games into the season. These are minor points at this stage. Just get behind the team. I whinge like the rest of it. Like, I love a whinge. People know that I do. I'm always whinging on Twitter. But we're 3 games in, and I'm just sick of it. So early doors, just like give them a bit of breathing space, for crying out loud. Do you know what I mean?
Tell them, Gaz. Tell them, Gaz.
Gaz is just very close to what was his famous line? I'm sick of it. I'm absolutely just sick of it.
Go on then, just to stir you up a little bit more, Gaz. I am so sorry. We've had a comment as well from Paul. To be fair, Gaz, look, poor play performances. The clues were in pre-season. City's wide style of play just isn't working. Very Mark Hughes. Obviously, without getting too personal, what are your thoughts on that one?
I wouldn't say the players style of players like Mark Hughes. I think it's quite different to what he's put out.
I think he's meaning that it didn't work under Mark Hughes. It isn't working in the same way like Mark Hughes. I don't think he means the style's the same person. That's not how I read it anyway.
But sorry guys, I'll let you come in there. But I just wanted to point out that Mark Hughes wanted to play football, Premier League football, with League Two players on League Two pitches, and didn't know anything about League Two as a league. Graham Alexander is built for League Two football. I just find it crazy.
I thought that we were the better team at Grimsby. We didn't really deserve to lose that game. The game on Saturday, you could sit back. Yeah, it wasn't great. It wasn't a great performance, but and arguably Salford were the better side in the first half. But I thought in the second half, City deserved to win the game. And if the linesman does his job properly, we do win the game. And we had to deal with the low block that Salford put in the second half. And that is something that's going to hurt supporters, because that's something that we've struggled to deal with in the past, when teams come and sit deep and waste time and roll around on the floor. And you know what I mean? We all know it. We all know it happens. Jay was on about it with the Portsmouth game last week at Leeds. City struggle to cope with that, and have done since they've dropped into League Two. We need to find a way to deal with that. We really do. But it's 3 games into the season. We've not lost yet.
Apologies for the swear there from Ian, but that's quite a funny comment.
Yeah, I wasn't, so I don't know. I don't know about that. If that's right, it's sorting out, doesn't it? But I wasn't. Mine was all right. So.
By the way, I once went to Rochdale and every seat was covered at Ian. Just to let you know that, lad.
I just think
Chris Bell's listening. If he's listening to that, he'll take that one. Go on, Gaz.
Sorry, Lou. I just think
on,
a different route this season. We can't be wanting a manager out so early. We can't be getting to October and sacking a manager. At some point, we've just got to go down a different route and have a bit of patience and see where we are come the end of the season. I really do think we've got to do that, no matter how unhappy we are with certain things. And yes, there are gripes about those number 8s, like I say, and Walker and Poynton should arguably be playing, and there's the contradictions about Gilead. But come on, it's 3 games into the season.
Is there something in this question I'm going to pose to you? Because I'm thinking of what Jay said, actually, ironically, about Bielsa at Leeds. Are people still a little bit hanging on to the emotions of what Phil Parkinson did at City, and they want that vibe, that good feel factor in terms of winning games? Ironically, I don't think Parky played the best football. Very simple, very, very direct. Are people still kind of clutching at that as a bit of nostalgia and want some of that back? And for whatever reason, have just not been able to get over what has been and was quite a long time ago a very successful City team.
Yeah, I mean, Parky didn't play great football, but nobody minded that. It was very in your face. The thing with Parkinson's football was you knew if you were losing or drawing, attacking that cop in the second half, we were going to have a bloody good go. And we haven't always seen that with managers that have been in there since. I think under Graham Alexander, we're probably more likely to see that than we have done in managers that have been there before. But yeah, there is an element of that. But let's be honest, Parkinson's the only one that's given us any sort of thing to shout about since we're in the Premier League. That we haven't had anything to shout about, barring those 3 or 4 years under Parky and the first year that we had when McCall came back, when we were knocking on the door of the Championship. We had like 3 or 4 years there, and other than that, it's been pretty depressing. And that's probably why City fans are like they are, because they're sick and tired, and they just want to see some success. But sometimes, like I said, I'm just not ready to be complaining too much, and I will acknowledge that there are things that could have been done different at the weekend, and there are things, little gripes that you can complain about, but I'm not ready to go down that route of just keyboard warriors and just sacking a manager. I'm not ready for that yet. I'm tired of it. Let's just try something different.
Let's wait till 3 months into the season, I guess.
3 months into the season, do you know what I mean? That's a third of the way in. Then maybe you've got a point. Maybe you can start looking at it and saying, well,
it's all right. You'll win 7 on the spin, Gaz, and then you'll be like, everybody will be cheering promotion. Then you'll lose 7 on the spin, and everybody go, oh, it's sack him. And then you'll win 7 on the spin, and they'll be, oh, we're going up.
Couple of observations here from a couple of fans, which to be fair is something you might want to comment on. Paul, the young Tigers battling, needs to stay at the club and be playing. Also with Ian as well, has asked a question about Kevin McDonald. And listen, I actually heard something midweek or the week, maybe even a week before, where Sanderson's come in and actually were praising McDonald, welcoming him into the club and feeling very part of the family. How does that sit with City fans where, yes, the transfer window's coming up, the rumblings about Young happened last season and maybe should have got rid of him when his price was at its peak, all that kind of stuff. What's the situation, if there is a situation with Young and McDonald, and do they stay or do they go?
I think, like I said previously, I think that's why we're probably willing to let Gilead go, because we've struggled to move players such as McDonald, Oliver, Wilson on, who we've known all summer or have been listed all summer in the paper as being available to go. I am coming to the conclusion now that it's gone on that long that we are going to struggle to get rid of Kevin McDonald now without some sort of just termination of contracts or whatever, and that's probably going to cost a lot of money. So it is a worry. I think the longer it goes on, the less likely he is to find a new club, and the more likely he is it's going to be more expensive for us to get rid of him. But yeah, so it was strange. I saw the same as you, Lou, about Sanderson saying that would sort of put an arm around him, and that's interesting because that doesn't fall in with the rumours that were around a couple of weeks ago that McDonald were being a bit disruptive and was being made to train separately and blah 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 blah. So yeah, nobody knows what's going on there. I think, like I said, that we will struggle to get rid of him to a new club, and we might end up being a termination of contract type thing if he is to go. Regards Jake Young, he is spot on. What's strange there is that Graham Alexander fought hard to bring him back from Swindon in January. There was a big potential to sell him in the January transfer window. Obviously, his value was probably as high as it's ever been because he'd had such a good, run of form at Swindon. We could have cashed in. There was options to cash in. There was rumoured interest from Carlisle and other clubs, and there was, talk about the fee, and Carlisle said we wanted ridiculous money, and obviously nobody came in and met our valuation, and Graham Alexander was on record as wanting him back, and he got him back, and then he got injured not long after he came back and missed the rest of the season, and now he appears to be the striker that's most likely to leave. Again, I think that's probably, whether it's that, there's always going to be these rumours that he Hughes didn't like, he didn't think he trained hard enough, etc., and he was a bad apple and he was made to train with the kids. And people are always going to look back and say, well, is that the case? Is Alexander finding the same, and that's why he's willing to let him go? Personally, I would imagine it's more a case of, like I said with Gilead, that we're struggling to move other players on and there is interest in him. And therefore, if you wanted to bring players in and he's not a first choice because Graham Alexander likes Callum Kavanagh and Andy Cook up front, and obviously has brought Sanderson in, who's going to be that competition for Kavanagh. So if Young's not going to be a first choice and you've got teams that want to come in and take him for money, that's probably why he's available. I think Young will go. I think the fact that he wasn't in the squad, he wasn't even in the 18 on Saturday, points to the exit door for him. He did come on as a sub at Grimsby, but he hasn't started. He hasn't started a game yet out of the 3, and like I said, wasn't even in the 18 on Saturday. So I think that's coming towards a conclusion, probably towards the end of the window, and he'll be moved on. There is rumoured to be interest there from a few League One clubs.
Okay, so moving on to the weekend. Listen, I don't know what City can sometimes do to appease everyone, get a happy fan base. Obviously people are entitled to their own thoughts, but home to Bromley, who spent, I think, 132 years apparently in the kind of a non-league pyramid before coming up to League Two. They've had a wow of a start. 2 wins, beat Harrogate, beat Wimbledon, and very comfortably against Wimbledon, in fact, at the weekend. How does this one go for you guys? Is it one where City fans will probably be expecting to win, and if they don't get a win, they're going to be feeling quite short-changed, or is it a little bit of a banana skin potentially?
City fans will be expecting to win. That's what annoys City fans, that we've got such a poor home record and we're not winning at home games. We've talked about this on the pod for the last 18 months. You've talked about it, Lou, that probably if your home form and your away form have swapped around over the last couple of years, fans probably aren't quite as tetchy as they have been. And I look at that on Saturday and I say, like you just said there, what do City fans want? I think if that goal's given like it should have been on Saturday, there's no whinging on social media because you've won the game and you're 2 out of 2 in the league. City fans will be expecting to win on Saturday. We probably need a win just because it's second home game and we didn't win the first one. But Bromley, I've gone to Wimbledon. That Wimbledon result is a big one because Wimbledon has started reasonably well as well this season. I know that Wimbledon fans feel that they'll have a good year and can hit the playoffs. So for Bromley to beat them 2-0 is a real... And City fans just have to look at it and say, we're not guaranteed. A win isn't 100% guaranteed at home to Bromley. Yeah, we want to win, and on paper we should win and probably need to win because we didn't win the first home game, but it's not guaranteed. And I do think if we play like we did in the second half on Saturday, we've got a big chance of winning the game. There are, like I say, issues around those 8s. I would like to see Jamie Walker and Bobby Poynton in, like I've said, all season so far, but I don't see that change happening probably for a while yet. I think he'll stick with what he's gone with Patterson and Sarcevic. So, we need to win. Fans will expect to win. It's only going to ramp up if we don't. I will say that we will win 2-1.
Keep flying the flag, mate. Keep flying the flag for the happy ones. Go on, Jay. Your thoughts on a little bit at City and obviously the Saturday game against Bromley.
Yeah, Gaz has kind of hit the nail on the head there, I mean, with ultimately the results dictate everything. Because the performance only means so much if there's W's at the end of the column. By the end of the day, nobody's bothered if you're picking up wins. And I think down at League Two, I think Downs have made this point. Alexander, I think he's similar to Fark at Championship level in that he's kind of got the recipe for success. He's a ready-made, purpose-built manager. Ultimately, he needs the players in and to be able to play the system that they want at League Two level. Direct football is probably the most effective football, and I think the fan base massively have to get behind them. regardless of whatever the result is at the weekend, guys. I think, you know, the solution isn't always just sack another manager. It's exciting short term. It's exciting for a couple of weeks. But once that honeymoon period wears off, you're just back with another manager that's probably less qualified and is less set up for success. That's, I think, have no pre-season and no transfers coming in, and, you know, transfer window is shut by then, and all the rest of it. So you want the results, you want the wins, and, you know, you're not going to always be scintillating. You're not always going to win 3-0. You have to sometimes get a 1-0 scrappy win against Salford. We're probably going to be up and around the top 10 again. You know what I mean? Well, I say again, the other postseason last season, but you know what I mean? They're going to be in and around that kind of contention. And you have to take the 1-0 win that you should have done on the day. You know what I mean? And you're as you say, a referee or an official's decision away from winning that game. So as for Bromley, weekend started great. You know, carried some momentum through from getting promoted at a non-league, which is massive. It's an extremely difficult division to get out of, is the National, you know, with the positions that are up for grabs. And over the last few years, the teams that have come up from the National have been so well kind of financed that they've kind of steamrolled through. And I mean, I know Bromley are not a Stockport or a Wrexham, but maybe they're just another one on the conveyor belt that are coming through. Michael Cheek, I've seen him a few times play for them. He's a player. He's going to cause you problems at the weekend. I really liked him in non-league. I've seen him a few times play for Bromley against teams at Halifax and a couple of others up here, Chesterfield. I went to see him against. So, yeah, I think there'll be a problem, mate. I think there'll be a real problem. It's going to be tight. I'm going to say, I think you'll win. I'm going to say 2-1. 2-1.
Same as Gaz. No problem. Mr. Downs, your thoughts over at Valley Parade and a prediction for Bromley?
Yeah, I echo really what Gaz has said. I just think it's absolutely daft after 3 games calling for, or maybe not quite calling for the manager's head, but just having a whinge and just not backing him wholeheartedly. Listen, it's going to take time, but you've just got to trust that Graham Alexander knows what he's doing at that level. Like Jay says, if you wouldn't have had incompetent officials at the weekend, you would have won that game. And so I'm going to go with a City 1-0 win, just because I think Bromley there's quite a lot of optimism there, obviously carrying on from, like Jay says, the season before. So I don't think it will be as easy as what hopefully it should be, but I think, yeah, City to win 1-0.
You took the words right out of my mouth there, sir, because I've gone 1-0 as well. Just based on the fact I think City should have enough quality in their squad to just overcome Bromley. I think you've got the strength in depth as well off the bench. You know, you have got potential likes of Poynton and Sanderson as well to come on. Whereas I think, as well as Bromley have done, I think the calibre of opponent is very different from a Harrogate and a Wimbledon. I think City are on another level up, in my opinion, away from those teams. And I think, listen, I think that it could turn, as we know it can turn a little bit toxic if Bromley score an opening goal, which, like we've mentioned earlier, is just crazy considering take the penalties away from Grimsby, you're still unbeaten. But I think these are the kind of games that Alexander will relish. You know, against an unbeaten team at the moment, if you win potentially at City, you know, you are knocking up right at the top end of the table, albeit, you know, 3 games in, and you're giving yourself, you know, a bit of a foundation to build on. So yeah, I've gone 1-0. So that's from me. I know Diggler there just put a prediction in as well. He's gone 2-0 to Bradford City. Apparently, he heard the noise from shopping in Foster Square, so that 16,000 noise does carry when you scored a goal or you think you've scored a goal, Gaz. Sorry to rub it in.
My wife picked up after the game and she thought we'd won 1-0 because she thought that goal had been given because everybody cheered when it went in because it wasn't a goal. And then it was just absolute flabbergasted that it didn't get given. What I will say is that, yes, the first half on Saturday wasn't great. But the one thing we've not done yet since we've been in League Two, so I think Downsy mentioned it there, used the word time. We've not given a manager too much time, have we? Let's try something we've not done before. And I think you said I'm waving the flag for the happy brigade, Lou. That's the first time anyone's ever said that to me. Normally I'm called a moaner and a groaner and a whinge. I'm normally down at the other end of the spiral. So if I'm sort of the one that's raising keeping the flag flying for the Happy Brigade, that's really, really saying something. And if we are still complaining about the same things even in 4 or 5 games' time, then fair enough. Let's have a proper whinge in 4 or 5 games' time. But after 3 games, come on, lads.
Can't wait for Gaz's whinge fest in 3 months' time. Bring that on.
Fair,
So,
you'll
be there.
And I think that's fair. But after 3 games, it isn't.
I agree, mate. I agree. So, thanks again, everybody, for your comments in. We're just coming to the end of the show with a bit of a final wrap-up about non-league. But before I kind of do my usual doings on non-league, just to remind everybody, I've just reposted as well from my account, and obviously our West Yorkshire football account has reposted the Fantasy Football League that we are in. I did take a screenshot, boys, of me leading the way just after Saturday. I slipped down the league, but just to let everybody know, those that are in the group and the league division itself, we have agreed to do a bit of a forfeit between us guys as so-called pundits, so-called experts. But basically what we're saying is the lowest ranked person out of any one of us, including Dave and Brownie and Chris, we are to wear the shirt of our rivals or the team that we may dislike the most at the end of season review. So everybody will be hoping Downs is wearing a Leeds shirt. I'm pretty sure Jason will be hoping for that, and Brownie as well. Gaz is a lover, not a fighter, so Gaz really, to be fair, doesn't dislike anybody. So Gaz couldn't end up with anybody's shirt, to be honest. It could be one of those mystery shirts out of a box for him.
I tell you, I don't like Mikel Arteta, so maybe I should wear one of a massive
Arsenal top. Maybe you've just called that one. You've just called it live on air, mate, for that
Spurs, one. Just on fantasy, Lou, Spurs are battering Leicester, and Pedro Porro has scored the opening goal. So
I've got him as well.
Maybe some of us have got him in our fantasy team.
Yeah,
just saying.
Yeah.
Or some people might put Ivan Toner in the division, in the starting lineup, and that works really well. So yeah, so take part in our league. I think you can still join it. You can do it. So the code for those of us, it's on the bottom, but it's 5M for mother, 6A9 P for Peter. So you can. You might be joining. I don't know.
Yeah, no, you can. You broke up there, Gaz. What did you say?
So I was just asking what the score was. Is it 1-0 to Spurs?
1-0 Spurs. Yeah.
1-0. So there we go. So we can join the fantasy league and see if all you guys as experts out there that keep telling us that we're talking absolute rubbish. Fair play, Ryan. I'll take third as it stands. Yeah, fair play, mate. Good to have you back. I know you've been in a grassroots meeting, so it's great to have you back. So talking about grassroots, we'll kick off with a bit of non-league stuff. So our resident Halifax Sherman Statman is not here. He's having to do another shift, bless him. But I know he will be tuning in at some point. So to pick up a little bit on some of the non-league, and we'll rattle through some of this stuff as well as we normally do. So Halifax suffered their first defeat, lost 1-0 to Aldershot. Dave gave his own account, didn't he, boys, in the group? Said it was an even game. 3rd-minute goal just separated both teams. But I don't know, Jay, your thoughts. Obviously, a couple of plays that you know there from Leeds United days. But again, it's nothing to really panic about. It's probably disappointing, but it's probably one of those games where it's even Stevens and it's just a goal that separated both teams really early on, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, I mean, I've not seen any of the game, to be fair, but I definitely don't think it needs to be panic stations for Halifax. I think they've got more than enough to be in and around there. Their battle this season is to try and aim for that last playoff spot again, in it. I personally think very young side, but a lot to be excited about. And yeah, you know what, the weekend's games can happen. Sometimes you concede an early goal, and there can actually just be no way back. It can kind of flatten any plans that you had pre-game. Manager's talk goes out at window. The tactics kind of go out at window, and then a resolute defence can sometimes just hold them out, can't they? So, you know, losing away games is going to happen. So, yeah.
And I believe it was Josh Barrett who scored. And am I right in thinking, Downsy, did he play for Huddersfield? Josh Barrett?
Sorry, he broke up there, Lou. Who did you say?
Right? Sorry, Josh Barrett, who were at Aldershot. Did he play at Town? Am I completely missing?
No.
Am I thinking of a different Barrett?
And he might have played in like the U setup. Yeah, you're testing my mind here, Lou.
Might have got wrong.
Anyway, there was a Barrett at Town. There was a Barrett.
Yeah. I might be completely wrong. But anyway, he scored, whether he played for Huddersfield or not. So in terms of obviously moving on to this week, so for those of you who are not familiar with some of the fixture schedule in non-league, so obviously with the upcoming bank holiday, a lot of the teams in non-league play on bank holiday Monday as well. So I don't know if you guys have seen this as well. So Halifax play Gateshead tomorrow night at the Share. And Greg Ollie, who's one of Gateshead, I think he's a captain, one of the main players, has suffered a horrific injury. He's being challenged. There's all sorts of stuff on social media, which I think is unbelievable, and it's for people to make their own thoughts on. But I think he broke his leg, done his ankle, and ruptured all his ligaments, and he's had to have surgery today. Season's over. I actually tipped Gateshead to do really well this season. After watching them under Mike Williamson, who we know has gone to MK Dons, and Rob Elliott, who used to be Charlton keeper and Newcastle United keeper, is now in charge, is really taking them on. They seem to be the ones to probably be, and maybe, I don't know, down to your thoughts. Obviously, you may not have seen it, but when something like that happens to one of your teammates, it almost maybe galvanizes a team and really brings the group together, doesn't it? So Halifax playing Gateshead is probably not the best time to play him, is it?
I saw. Well, I didn't see because I wasn't at the game, but my mum, dad, and sister were. When Pilkington broke his foot and his foot turned the other way, and there were genuinely players throwing up on the pitch because they'd never seen anything like it, and that for the rest of the season galvanised the fact that they all wanted to do it for Pilks. Now, ultimately, Town didn't go up that season, which was a bit heartbreaking, but he did get his move to Norwich. And on the back of that, he always appreciated the fact that Town fans were there for him. The Town doctor was there for him and all the players at the time. So I can only imagine how horrendous the Gateshead player is feeling at this moment in time. And I just hope that he does get back on a football pitch and is able to do the stuff that he loves. But yeah, it can galvanise you as a dressing room, and I just think hopefully, like I say, he's going to be all right, and that is an horrific injury. But Halifax are in a tough place right now. Gateshead are going to be up there. I predicted that they would be. I think, hopefully, looking back at my league table, non-league knowledge, but from what I understand, Facts are doing all right at the minute. They're just doing what they should be. I mean, it's disappointing that they've, lost I think last weekend to Aldershot, but hopefully they can get a win. I would expect Gateshead to come away with a victory though.
Who did you say had the injury, Lou?
Greg Ollie. One of their main players. Arguably, he's probably AFL standard, isn't he? He's a super little player as well. So, yeah, obviously.
Jacob Butterfield there, aren't they?
Yeah, Jacob Butterfield, Bradford lad's gone there. They've recruited really well, and they were flying pre-season. I think they even hit Fars.
They won 5-1 on first day of season, didn't they?
Yeah, they're going to be up there.
The Butterfield's got Gateshead, has it?
Yeah.
Because he was funny, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was at Scunny. Didn't stay at Scunny, and he's worked his way back up to National League, and I mean, he's a super player, isn't he?
He's a good player.
You'll learn from Leeds,
yeah. But they've got Mark Beck there as well, aren't they? Big lad up front, and he's just a problem at any non-league level. He's a problem. They were arrogant, wasn't he, for a long time? Yeah,
really, he's a really shrewd signing at Solihull. So, kind of rattling through. So Halifax, they had home to Gateshead on Tuesday. Friday night, they go away to Dagenham Redbridge. What a lovely trip on a Friday night that'll be. And then bank holiday Monday, but at home to, ironically, Solihull. So some big fixtures going in there. On to the next ones in the Northern Premier League. So, in the National League North, in fact, Farsley Celtic lost 2-1 to Buxton, who've just literally gone, pretty much full-time at the beginning of the season. Really young outfit, but apparently battled really well against Farsley. And one of those fixtures where maybe, again, I've not actually seen the game, but maybe fitness might have helped Buxton through that one. Farsley obviously had a really good start against Rushall Olympic 3-2. But suffering defeat, and they've got a really tough run of fixtures coming up over the next week or so. So Marine away, Scarborough away, and Warrington Town away. So Farsley will be hoping that, I think, in my opinion, to possibly get at least 3 points out of them to get a half decent return. Because if you lose you could lose 4 on a bounce, which is not the best way to go after such an opening day win. Moving on to the Northern Premier League, so the Premier Division, Guiseley again, unfortunately, have suffered a couple of defeats. Two very tough trips on the road. Lost 3-1 to Stockton, who, in my opinion, will be quite an outfit to watch in the Premier Division. They look a really strong outfit. Won the East Division last season, and it's one of those again which I called out last week. If Guiseley are really serious about winning the league or going up, they've probably got to we were talking about Jay with West Bromwich Albion, you've got to grind them results out. Disappointing 3-1 loss, and then the same result, the loss to Macclesfield as well. Macclesfield have started the season really well under Robbie Savage, beating Worksop 1-0, my actual favourites of the league, and beating Guiseley. So Macclesfield have done really well. In terms of Guiseley's fixtures, so they're at home to Blythe, Alberto Solano's Blythe Spartans, I may add, and we'll mention Blythe Spartans a little bit later on, because they're coming to Bradford very soon. They're going to be at home to FC United on Saturday, and then away to Bamber Bridge on a Monday. So this is where non-league fixtures just go absolutely crazy. My opinions have been well documented before on the fixture congestion, but yeah, we'll move on from that one. And then in the East Division, as we all know, it's the division to probably look for in our region. So starting off, just going through alphabetically, Bradford Park Avenue lost 1-0 to Belper on Tuesday night. I've been to both games, so I'll comment on both of them. So the Belper fixture was close. They were arguably the better team, created a similar number of chances as Avenue, but they basically just shot more than us. It was as simple as that. We probably tried to overcomplicate it and almost walk the ball in, and we didn't really, if I'm being honest, trouble the goalkeeper. And it was just a cross that came in from the right flank. It was headed in. That won the game. It was always going to be a 1-goal winner. There was nothing really between both teams. And then a disappointing 3-2 loss in the FA Cup to Stocksbridge. Ironically, I don't know if there's something in the Bradford air, Gaz. I know some of the fan base are not happy with Danny Whittaker either. Talk about Graham Alexander at City, but some people just can't take to Danny Whittaker. Even after 3 games and winning the first league game, I get it. We haven't won at home in the FA Cup, I think, for, I want to say 11 years, when we beat Penrith 2-1. It's that extra bit of pocket money that the clubs at this level always want. And listen, it wasn't a great performance. Watched the game back. Personally, I'm not sticking up for everything, because I think, there could have been definitely tweaks and changes in play. But Stocksbridge have scored from a mistake, probably from the right back to not clear his lines, and then the goalkeeper Ellison, who was unbelievable, if I'm being honest, in the previous 2 games, his leg going underneath him. The second goal's been flicked off the heel of the striker and it's gone into the bottom corner, which, you can either call it clever, you can call it a bit fluky, you could call it, kind of both at the same time. And then we were pushing to get to an equaliser when they've scored the third. So, listen, it wasn't great. I'm not saying we deserve to win, but sometimes it's just those moments that just don't go in your favour. And I know that the club are working hard to kind of rectify that, those couple of defeats. So, actually, Avenue have 2 West Yorkshire derbies coming up at home to Brighouse tomorrow night at the Horsefall, and then play Liversidge on Monday. So those will be big. There'll be big moments and big games, I think, actually, for Whittaker.
It wouldn't be fair to let your Bradford Park Avenue game pass by without mentioning that you also had a ghost goal, didn't you, at the weekend?
Yes, mate. Yeah. Probably similar to yours.
Group chat, didn't we, mate?
Yeah, shared a picture, and yeah, I mean, if you don't have VAR and officials and watches in League 2, then you're lucky to get a piece of pen and paper at non-league sometimes. I mean, seeing the photo, and it clearly over the line. The actual guy, I think what probably helps Stocksbridge is that the legs of the defender seem to obstruct the ball, so he probably gets away with it in that respect. I actually think Sykes, for ourselves at Avenue, he should be putting the ball in the back. It should be hitting the net, regardless of it going over the line. It's infuriating, isn't it, when you've been there and I've been there, when the ball is over the line and it is a goal and it's not given. And the referee and the linesman, I think the referee were fairly close. The linesman is obviously in line. I was in line with it. If I'm being honest, I couldn't really call it. And I think that's just because of the way that the goalkeeper's turned around, he's tried to grab the ball from over the line, and the defender's legs are covering it as well. So it's probably been disguised well, but still it hurts when it's just not given. So listen, it's one of those where we can't wait when VAR comes into non-league in about 500 years' time, and that problem gets eradicated. But that's a level we're at. Kind of running through the rest of the teams.
Just quickly on that, Lou, it is a tough one for the officials because as fans we can check it, look at it, look at these still images, and I'm not I know they were both bad decisions, but when the ball gets played in that area and gets cleared back over your line quickly, like that moment is far more difficult to give the goal than it is to not give the goal. If you know what I mean. So I'm just playing a little bit of devil's advocate.
No, I think you're right, and I think it kind of comes a little bit back to your argument of the situation that Leeds had, didn't the other week, with a penalty which caused debate, the fiery debate with ourselves, is if you're going to give a decision like that, what affects the game more, and what's the right decision. And I think in that situation, you can't call it if you can't see it. I can understand completely why he didn't give it. I think the infuriating is when you look at it, in a light of day at the end of it, and you have photo evidence that you don't have at that moment in time. You can see it. And it's like, oh wow, we actually did score, but it's one of those situations. But some big games, and I actually do think these are from I'm going to say a popularity contest. Brighouse and Liversidge. If Avenue I'll be honest, don't win them both games, people will want Danny Whittaker out, even though we're so early in the season. But each to their own. Brighouse drew 0-0 with Ossett 0-0. So their next game against Sheffield after Avenue at the weekend. Emily, so I know that Ryan's posted a comment as well. Big game against Belper Tuesday night tomorrow. I agree. I think that's a really one to look out for. Having watched Belper, they'll be up there. Emily have started the season incredibly well. Drew 1-1 at Newton Aycliffe, a really tricky place to go. And then beat Trafford 3-0 in the FA Cup, who ironically beat one of our teams in the local region at Albion Sports. And they go to Morpeth in the next round of the FA Cup, which was drawn today, which I'll come on to a little bit later with some really eye-opening fixtures. Emily's fixtures after Belper, away to Concert on Saturday, and then away to Emily on Monday. Away to Emily? Yeah, Emily. I think Brighouse won it. So obviously that could be an interesting one for Emily coming up with Morpeth as well in the FA Cup. Garforth keep up the unbeaten start, 0-0 against Concert. 2 draws against North East teams, followed up by a 1-1 draw against Heaton Stannington in the FA Cup. They play Wednesday, I believe, in a replay, and the winner will play Bury FC at home. So from a money perspective and crowd attendance, I think Garth will definitely have that one. So no, Bury will probably bring 100, 200 fans. But if you want to see a meltdown of fan bases, I know the one recently a lot, but Bury's one to watch out from social media because, wow, there's some opinions on Bury. Garforth, next fixtures away at Ponty on Saturday in a derby as well. So that should be an interesting one. Liversidge drew a really good result, 1-1 against Dunstan on Tuesday. They're away to Brid at obviously their place tomorrow night, and then home to Cleethorpes, who again title favourites. So Liversidge having it tough. Dunstan, Bridlington, Cleethorpes are not the teams you want to face in this league. Ossett, which we mentioned also recently in midweek last week, lost 5-0 to Grimsby Borough and then drew 0-0 with Brighouse. They've got some tough trips up north east with Newton Aycliffe on Saturday and then away to Heaton Stannington on the Monday. Ponty, moving on to the Coles, so they beat Heaton 2-0 and then beat Redcar, which is a really, really good result in the FA Cup. 3-0 comprehensive victory against a team made up of a lot of ex-Mask, Spennymoor, Blythe Spartans players. So they go to either Clitheroe or Sheffield in the next round of the FA Cup. And many other teams in the FA Cup from the North Counties East League, one's really standing out. Campion beat AFC Liverpool with, I think, nearly 250 people there on Sunday. Their outcome, their prize draw is they have got Blythe Spartans in the next round of the FA Cup. I cannot imagine how them guys at Campion feel about that. From where they've come as basically a Sunday League team, have worked their way up, have now got Norberto Solano's famous giant killing Blythe Spartans coming to Bradford. I mean, guys, reaction on that one. Jay, I know you live not far from Campion as well, and your thoughts on Campion playing Blythe. You'd never thought that, would you, mate?
Mate, I mean, I've been at Campion a couple of times where there's literally been 10, 15 people. Grass hasn't been cut properly. They've got. I remember the first time that I went there. Clearly, I asked for a burger and they cooked it on the George Foreman grill in front of me. Like, you know, what I mean? That's just genuinely what the non-league scene can be like at times. You go to the toilet and you're walking past the referee's room and the changing rooms. That's just the way that it is. The turnstiles that you go through are all rusty and old, and it's just. I love it. I love all that. Massive moment for them. Getting that, fingers crossed to get through. I mean, imagine that. Right. That'd be what a moment that would be. Mate, amazing. That's what football's all about, especially at grassroots level. That is what it's all about, and that's why Avenue fans are so gutted. We're losing in around where they really would hope to get through. Buzzing for him, mate. Delighted for him. Well,
yes, same, and they're well supported at Blythe as well. So the fact that Roberto Solano played in front of 50,000 in the Gallagher end and everything, and now he's taking his team to camping. Yeah, I just hope they make a load of money and they get through. Be brilliant.
What the FA Cup's all about, innit? It shows that it's still got the magic. If you go lower down the leagues, what is the gap in divisions between them two sides, Luke?
So Blythe are now in the Northern Premier League. So beneath that, you've got the East, and then you'll go into Campion. So it's actually
two divisions.
It's two divisions.
But it's the sort of feeling around it, isn't it?
Well, it's more the journey. It's the journey, innit? Because the gap previously was 4 or 5. More.
And the rest. I mean, they were a Sunday league team, weren't they? At some point, even a Saturday team. So amazing. And I know that in terms of, I think Chris has asked a question in terms of a date of a tie. So the tie is on the 31st on the Saturday, but Campion do have a trend of thinking outside the box, and it'd be good to get the guys on. And maybe we can help publicise it for them as well through our show. That Campion sometimes change your games to Friday night. They played Sunday afternoon in the last FA Cup game. So we'll keep you updated on our X feed and keep an eye on Campions, because depending on obviously agreeing with Blythe and how that works, they might potentially switch at Bun. But the winners receive, listen to this, guys, at this level, £2,250. They've already got 1,500 in the back pocket from the last round. So Campion, if they win this, have got upwards of £4,000 in the back pocket, and then potentially face a team higher up in the division. So remarkable journey. Moving on, Silsden again, remarkable story at Silsden. They've started off the season really, really well with Matt Cavan in charge. They beat Atherton Collieries, and there were again quite a few divisions gap between them last season. But they beat Atherton Collieries, did Silsden 2-0. And they now go to West Didbury and Charlton away. So it's one that Silsden will be looking at that they can hopefully get a win out of. Fackley, again, a really good result in a bit of an off Counties East League division tie, but in the FA Cup they beat Golka 1-0 on Friday night under the lights at Golka. Really tricky place to go, but a remarkable win for the guys there. And they go away to Warrington Rylands, who were in the playoffs of the Northern Premier League last year, Premier Division. So that's a tough tie. Eccleshill, squeezed out a 0-0 draw against Mosley, a really good, solid result. They've got a replay midweek. The winners of that will play Whitby. Unfortunately, it's at home because some of those guys would have loved to go away at Whitby on a Saturday for a weekend. And then just to round up some of the rest of the fixtures in the league action. So in the Premier Division, Albion Sports lost to Frickley 2-1. And then in the Division 1, Glasshoughton 3-1 Town 5, 8-goal thriller. Wakey just can't seem to get going. Lost 3-1 at Harrogate Railway. Horbury Town keep flying with a 1-0 win against Swallow Nest. Ilkley have just dropped off a little bit after such a promising start. And ironically, the tables turned with South Leeds, who have got onto a bit of a winning run in a 2-1 win. Shelley couldn't hold on to a 3-0 lead. They drew 3-3 with Louth. And Nostelmine as well, Fair probably got the pick of the action with a 7-0 win against Yorkshire Amateurs. So some standouts there. Again, we'll keep everybody updated as we normally do on our X account with all the fixtures coming up. But yeah, we've definitely got to call out them. The big standouts camping against Blythe, which is phenomenal. So we will be having a word with the ladies and gents down there to get promoting that one. But yeah, I mean, if there's anything else has caught your eye, gents, before we wrap up with just shy of 2 hours, which is a record for us. Anything else? Jay,
tell us being hosted properly, mate.
Oh, cheers, mate. Thank you. Just like to say, it's ironic because Chris is joined in and he can't make it, but he's coming all the way through, which is amazing. But
I think we've got a top host here. Top host. Yeah. Well done, mate. Keeping it running.
Mate.
Tight ship, mate.
Well done.
Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
I think
I'll go around us all to just run through. So we'll pick on each one of you, and then we'll wrap up. So Jay, first of all, anything else to go on?
No, I think good summary of the weekend. Big for Leeds specifically, massive 2 weeks or just shy of 2 weeks now to the end of the deadline. A couple of weeks ago, it felt like the 1st of September couldn't come quick enough. Now I want extended time. I want more time to get players in. So yeah, and I think it's key that we do that. But I also don't think it's an excuse for not picking up results. So big test for Daniel Farker and the boys on Friday. Gio Rutter there or not, regardless.
Danzy, 100% record. Is it going to stay?
Yes, on the town. To keep it short. Don't
Are you going to keep flying a flag, mate?
For now, yeah. Like I said, there are issues there that people are right to have a little bit of concern about, but let's not get ahead of ourselves yet. Let's just see how we are in a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks' time, and then we can turn those dissenting voices into something a bit louder if we feel we need to, but it's early days. I would just like to say as well, there was a bit of aggro in the bottom tier of the COP on Saturday regarding the atmosphere section being moved out of the northwest corner. People a bit disgruntled about, people standing up, people wanting to sit down, etc., etc. Like you tend to get at away games, that needs sorting out because it was planned and people did have the chance to move seats and relocate, and it still caused problems. So I know City have sent an email out tonight to those involved. Let's hope that gets sorted out before the next home game on Saturday.
100%, mate. You got to all get behind your team, guys. That's all that City and the rest of us lads want. We want the teams to do well. So, just to wrap up, thanks everyone who's been involved in tonight's stream, and comments from all of you guys and girls who've commented, from Gail to Ryan to Arthur to everyone, and Chris as well, who's joined in even though he couldn't make it. It's been an absolute pleasure to get all your predictions, your comments, your thoughts. Like we always say, and it sounds cliche, but it's really not. Without you guys commenting, it makes this roundtable just sing a little bit more. So don't forget, on our YouTube channel, give us a subscribe, give this video a like, spread the word. We are not far off from 1.5k subscribers. We're also on X as well, so we'll keep everybody updated with the usual fixtures, results through there. We're on Facebook, we're on TikTok apparently as well. Diggler, Ryan, thanks guys for all joining in. So just to wrap up, so we've been joined by our very own Jason Booker from Leeds United.
Thank you, mate.
Stephen Downs from Huddersfield Town. And Gaz from Bradford City. Thanks, everyone, and we'll catch you next week.